All right, good morning and welcome back to our channel Princess It. Today is the 19th of June 2025, and the message to us this morning is going to be so comprehensive. It's going to take a whole lot based on recent happening, especially yesterday, the culmination of events that transpired that set the ecosystem into a wildfire. We are going to address a lot of things based on what came out through that session and those things before then. So thank you very much. This is Princess It channel. In case you're new here, do kindly subscribe to our channel for regular updates. Right now, in the light of recent developments surrounding the anticipated disbursement of funds tied to major humanitarian and empowerment programs in the country, this atmosphere has become increasingly tense and it appears so much uncertain, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. The need for urgent clarity cannot and never be overstated, especially given the ripple effect this issue has on millions of Nigerians who have been anxiously waiting for a breakthrough that would bring economic relief to them and also developmental transformation within the four walls of the ecosystem. Now, it is very imperative that the general public, especially the stakeholders, the beneficiaries and observers, both within and outside Nigeria, understand the intricate dynamics that is currently at play. The situation is deeply rooted in institutional inconsistencies. Also, we have bureaucratic delays and a pattern of non-compliance that has gradually eroded trust within this ecosystem, particularly between the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the Nigerian government. Now, the meeting at the villa was a step forward, but with some conditional repercussions. We understood that recently a high-level meeting was convened at the presidential villa, which brought together critical stakeholders from the government sector, the representatives of the grassroots empowerment cooperatives like the grant handlers. Apostle Ken also was there. And the meeting was quite so decisive, one that was expected to address the impasse that has left international funding pipelines in limbo over time. However, while the meeting technically held and dialogue occurred, it did not yield some of the expected agreements. The International Monetary Fund, having previously issued a 4-day ultimatum, refused to accept Nigerians' ultimatum. I beg your pardon, just 1 minute. All right, so they refused to accept Nigeria's appeal for an extension, and that stance has been interpreted by many as harsh. Yet, that actually speaks volume about the IMF's current level of frustration with Nigerians' handling of due process. Now, the IMF had to take a stand, which led to some cases which was rooted in inconsistencies and broken trust. And to understand the position of the IMF, one must first acknowledge the historical context, knowing that over the past few years, the Nigerian government has repeatedly made verbal commitments to transparency, to accountability, and timely documentation, only to renege on agreements. The delay in official sign-offs and also provide some inaccurate documentation. So the IMF, being an institution of precision and legal commitment, they operate under strict procedural timelines. And in this case, the 4-day ultimatum was not arbitrarily chosen. It was tied to global disbursement timelines, interlinked aid programs, and also coordinated financial calendars that is involving multiple issues in torrents. So failure to meet this deadline risks delay in other international agreements and making Nigeria appear unserious in global financial circles. Now, further to this, the IMF is keen on preventing misuse of mismanagement of funds in politically sensitive or volatile environments. And there have been reports of overlapping claims, duplicate NGO registrations, opaque allocation frameworks, and within Nigeria systems. These inconsistencies raise some red flags for international bodies that is answerable to donor countries and global development charters. So by refusing to grant Nigeria another extension, the IMF was essentially drawing a line in the sand. That was a firm message that timelines, when it is agreed upon, must be honored. Now, in the light of this, the delegates were carefully selected. 5 delegates were carefully chosen in response to IMF's position. Now, the beg your pardon, the 5 delegates which were selected to travel abroad were to sign some critical documents on behalf of the government of Nigeria in the disbursement cycle. And these individuals were not randomly chosen. They represent the pivotal interests within the stakeholder ecosystem. When you have to combine legal, technical policies, and the grassroots perspectives, their role are symbolic and very functional. Now, this selected few, they are expected to function in perspective. First, to reassure the IMF of Nigeria's seriousness in the disbursement of this long-awaited grant. Secondly, they are to sign off on final disbursement frameworks. Thirdly, they are to undertake some compliance briefings with IMF legal officers. Fourthly, they are to act as co-signatories to transparent fund tracking documents. And fifthly, if everything works according to plan, they are to accompany the IMF delegation back to Nigeria for supervised disbursement, possibly. Now, the significance of this delegation cannot be overstated. These are individuals who are empowered with both diplomatic and fiduciary authority, and they are meant to bridge the gap between the global financial systems and local grassroots implementations, which are the beneficiaries, you and I. Now, why does the delegate have to travel abroad rather than the IMF team coming to the country? And this speaks of the integrity of the IMF protocol. A question was asked: why must they travel abroad to sign documents? Or possibly, I know that those are the questions that could also lie in the hearts of some people. Now, the answer lies in the IMF Integrity Protocol, which mandates that final approvals for critical disbursement plans must be signed in a neutral and secured financial jurisdictions, especially when the recipient country has a history of bureaucratic delay or political interference. This protocol also helps to prevent last-minute political sabotage, which has often plagued major disbursement efforts in Nigeria in the past. And by relocating the signing process abroad, all parties involved are placed under legal and international observation, which creates an environment of accountability and speed for the both parties. Now, there is a question of what if Nigeria fails to comply? What if this sign of agreement does not go well as planned? If they fail to meet the 4-day ultimatum, which at the time of getting to hear this, The delegates are expected to have been on their way or possibly there already. Now, the consequences could be severe. It could lead to a number of consequences if they fail to meet up with the 4-day ultimatum given by the IMF team. First, there could be the consequence of suspension of all related fund disbursement programs within Nigeria. Secondly, there could be a sanction, a financial sanction from IMF, which could include some temporary blacklisting of Nigeria's development portfolio. Thirdly, there could be the loss of donor confidence, which could lead to a reallocation of funds to neighboring countries with better compliance histories. Fourthly, there could be mass disenfranchisement. There could be mass disenfranchisement of the grassroots cooperators, many of whom have already made financial commitments in anticipation of these grants, who are the long-crowned beneficiaries in all of these wings. And this is why the urgency for the 5 delegates to travel and ensure compliance cannot be overemphasized. Their success is pivotal to the unlocking of billions in international humanitarian funding. Then the stakeholders. What the stakeholders must understand going forward. The message is clear. This process is no longer in the stage of casual negotiations. It has entered the implementation and compliance phase. The IMF has made it clear that the first phase of disbursement would be made to the stakeholders. The stakeholders, the likes of the grant handlers, the UAAG, the Theoba, the Supreme, the Midwest, and the rest of them like that. These are the stakeholders. Now, this does not mean that the masses would not benefit. No. But this highlights the preference, the IMF's preference for some of the top to down disbursement method with traceability structures and reporting mechanisms. So stakeholders are therefore encouraged to maintain transparency in all their operations. Very important. They are expected to maintain transparency in all their operations, as the same was with IMF. You could see all of their policy making, decisions, and structures. It's all about fairness and transparency. So stakeholders are expected to maintain this particular culture and lifestyle. Stakeholders are expected to avoid politicizing the process for personal or ethnic advantage. Stakeholders are expected to prepare their reporting templates also for beneficiaries validation and reconciliation protocols. Then stakeholders are also expected to educate the public, that's the grant ecosystem, truthfully about the stages that is involved, so as to reduce a level of unrest, rumors, and also misinformation within this ecosystem. Now, the emotional toll this had on the beneficiaries within these few days, we shouldn't undermine this. We should not ignore this emotional toll, the mental, the psychological effect this long process has had on millions of Nigerians who have potential beneficiaries of this fund. Now, every update, every hope that is dashed, every rumor of disbursement that has taken toll on people's well-being, from farmers who are in remote cooperatives, the youth groups in undeserved communities, the widows in urban slums, the unemployed graduates who tied their hopes to these empowerment programs. The weight of expectation is enormous. The weight of expectation is very enormous. And this is why clarity is of importance. The public must understand that this is not just merely a financial transaction. It is a systemic shift. It is a global intervention that is aimed at pulling entire communities out of poverty. But for such a process to occur, it cannot succeed without structure. Neither could it succeed without a credibility and patience. So there should be a path forward. There should be a path forward to all of these things and what to expect in the coming days. With the 5 delegates which have been reportedly already en route, or perhaps having completed the documentation process within these days that was slated for them, beginning from yesterday night to today onwardly, if all, we could say that hope precisely is gradually also returning to the system. And if all proceeds as planned, we're expecting that the within the timeline or time frame, that the return of the delegates alongside with the IMF supervisory team is a possibility. I hope you understand that. In other words, that if all proceed as planned, that the delegates that went to abroad might or would or may be coming with the IMF team for the supervisory disbursement protocol. Then if all proceed as planned also, the verification process and the clearance of the initial stakeholders' wallets would definitely be enforced. Then this would also trigger the stakeholder level disbursement, then which afterward followed suit with the beneficiaries, which are the grassroots cooperatives and subscribers disbursement. So then finally there would be a full-scale disbursement after the stakeholders have been attended to verified individual accounts. So it is hoped that this will not only bring relief to the beneficiaries, but also restore credibility and pride to Nigeria's handling of international humanitarian programs. This is Prince CC channel. In case you're new, do subscribe to our channel for regular updates. Don't touch the dial. I'm sure going to be with you in a moment. All right, welcome back. Now, conclusively, I want to just wrap everything up right now and peg all these actions and thoughts, everything at a point. Now, this entire development is not just a story of disbursement. This actually culminates into a reflection of Nigeria's relationship with the global financial community, and the repeated delays and inconsistencies must now, as a matter of fact, give way to a new culture of trust, a new system-based governance, and also people-centered transparency. All hands must be on deck, from civil servants to cooperatives, from the clergy within this ecosystem to community leaders. We all must join in supporting this financial phase, or this final phase, that would definitely ensure that nothing derails the process again. We also must stand in solidarity with the 5 chosen delegates who went for the signatory, trusting that they represent the dreams of millions. So let this moment mark a turning point, not just for the grants, but for how Nigeria approaches responsibility, how Nigeria approaches commitment, and how Nigeria approaches international cooperation. Let this be the last delay, and let the healing begin. I rest my case, and I wish you a very lovely Thursday ahead of you. God bless you.